We are following breaking news right now. This stolen blue Mercedes. It was stolen out of West LA right now, traveling eastbound on the 10, approaching Culver City. We want to head right over to right over to Mike Rogers first to talk about the circumstances behind this stolen blue Mercedes.
Yeah, Chauncey, you see West LA units from the LAPD right behind this. They are not in tracking mode. This is a full-blown pursuit. What we know, West LA division officers spotted this stolen car. We don't know if it was a license plate run or exactly what happened here, but one way or another, LAPD began chasing this vehicle. They actually went through surface streets on Santa Monica, up and down PCH, before we got on the eastbound 10 freeway. Right now, we are east on the 10, coming into Culver City, Chauncey.
Got you. Now we want to go up to Desmond Shaw. Desmond, you've been on this, and like Mike said, we're in full pursuit mode with this stolen Mercedes out of West LA here, traveling on the 10.
Yes, that's right, Chauncey. We are in full-blown pursuit mode, and we are in full-blown LA evening traffic on the eastbound side of the 10 as we make our way through Culver City here, approaching Robertson. So as Mike was saying, heard about this with LAPD's Western Division there on the west side of LA, pretty close to Santa Monica is where we first heard about this. And when I heard that the suspect was getting on the eastbound 10, I was like, well, this could get pretty interesting because let's see how desperate they get to avoid this traffic. We've already seen them go on the right-hand shoulder to get around some of it there, and just as we were coming to air, it happened so quickly, but it looked like LAPD was actually across lanes like they were trying to do a traffic break. Not sure if they were trying to throw a spike strip out or something like that, but the suspect just went right around them on the right-hand shoulder. So we've got one of these medium-sized Mercedes SUV. I believe this is the GLK class. I believe to be two people inside of this allegedly stolen vehicle. And again, you know, the eastbound 10, definitely one of the worst places to try to get involved in a pursuit because there is still a ton of traffic ahead. My pilot Dylan letting me know there is still a lot of it here towards downtown. But here we go again on the right-hand shoulder, zigging and zagging to try to get away from LAPD.
And LAPD right there behind this suspect as we are approaching all of this traffic. Desmond, this could get dangerous very quickly, especially as we approach more traffic as we get closer to downtown.
Yeah, it's just going to be like this pretty much on and off all the way to the East LA interchange. I mean, even though we're at 7 o'clock, Santa Monica Freeway, one of the last freeways to kind of untangle itself. If you live in LA, you definitely know what I'm talking about here. And, you know, unfortunately, it's just not that uncommon to see this kind of desperation from the suspects, almost like they're trying to use this to an advantage, almost like daring LAPD to come and get them here, driving along the right-hand shoulder. And as I widen out, let's see, LAPD is still back there. Of course, they have their lights and sirens and, you know, people getting out of the way for them. They also have their helicopter overhead on this one. So we'll see what the strategy is here, where they're headed. But taking the right-hand shoulder to try to avoid LAPD. And, you know, all it takes is one wrong move, and this is going to end in a crash.
Yeah. And you're watching this stolen Mercedes weave in and out of traffic here on the 10 LAPD right on the suspect's tracks. We're told two people are inside of this stolen Mercedes SUV that was stolen out of West LA. We want to go back over to Mike Rogers. Any information on...
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That could have been a crash easily right there, right into that barrier.
Absolutely. And, you know, Chauncey, as we're watching this, I am listening to LAPD. Apparently, and I don't know if anybody caught it, but a couple of moments ago, the car went behind a big bus, and the airship has reason to believe that they tossed something out of the car there by that bus. So they're asking some LAPD officers that are in the back to go kind of check and see if they can locate anything that may have been thrown out where that bus was. And as you mentioned, yeah, two occupants, Texas license plates on this. Airship asked if they were going to go into tracking mode, and the watch commander said, no, let's stick with it. So that's why we're seeing these officers here still right behind him. They are not in tracking mode. The watch commander actually asked if they wanted to go in tracking mode, and watch commander said, no, we want to keep with it. So that's what we're doing right now as we get off the freeway here. Des, this is that weird spot where you can kind of get off or not, right?
Yeah, I believe this was a collector lane that they took, one of those kind of through lanes right there. And we just saw that kind of last-second maneuver going up over that elevated median there. Could have lost control, but they managed to stick with it, and LAPD still right behind them as well. So zigging and zagging out of traffic, and just want to widen out for a second and show you what we are dealing with here, because it's just kind of this slinky of traffic all the way towards the East LA interchange, or at least towards the 110 freeway. So making our way now through the West Adams area, and you know, you kind of have this situation where you saw a couple of people there. They're trying to get out of the way for LAPD, but unsuspectingly also getting out of the way for the suspect in doing that. So, you know, folks doing what they're, you know, supposed to do, unfortunately kind of aiding the suspect. But frankly, maybe it doesn't even matter because the suspect's just going to drive on the right-hand shoulder if they have to get away from this. But very observant of the flight officer there if he saw something being thrown out of the vehicle. I did not see that happen back behind that bus. So be very curious to see what, if anything, that was that may have been thrown out of the vehicle.
Mike, any information on the circumstances surrounding how this SUV was stolen?
No, not that we've heard. And again, these are Texas plates. So, you know, we have no idea if this was stolen out of Texas and this is a nationwide alert, or if it was, you know, somebody who already lived here but still had Texas plates and it was stolen. All those details are still unclear. All we know is that these West LA officers from LAPD's West LA division got behind the vehicle, ran the plate, came back stolen. They tried to stop it, and that just didn't work. And, you know, the helicopter has been over this pretty consistently. And, you know, Des was headed to this. They were on surface streets in Santa Monica, which really 7 nights a week in the city of Santa Monica, right there by the pier, is always busy with pedestrians. So it's, you know, it's not great that they're still going, but it's better that we're on the freeway and not, you know, near the busy Santa Monica Pier area.
Right. And Mike, we were talking about, at one point, did it seem like that police were going to do some kind of move or a traffic stop at some point? This is about 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, and I had heard them get the approval for spike strips at one point as well, and they did want an officer to do a traffic break, but that was before we got on the freeway. So I don't know, maybe they were trying to attempt a spike strip again, and that's why, you know, Des had pointed out that it looked like they had maybe officers across the lanes. They may have been trying to run a traffic break to do spike strips again. We've not heard anything about it being successful if they tried a spike attempt, but that was something that they were talking about before we got on the 10 freeway.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see if police find, if, you know, the suspect threw something out of this SUV, what that item was, which may give us some kind of indication as to why this suspect might be running.
Right, you know, and who knows? I mean, stolen vehicle, is there the people inside wanted for anything else? Was a weapon used during the theft of the vehicle? That's all things that these officers are trying to sort through, and that's certainly why if that TFO saw somebody, you know, toss something out of the car, that they're certainly going to want to recover that to figure out where it is as we, you know, continue to go down the 10 freeway here.
Wow. Desmond, are you concerned as this driver continues east here down the 10 freeway and still dealing with traffic here at 7:15 this evening and possibly running into more traffic, more than likely?
Yeah, definitely almost a certainty here with traffic continuing on and off. You see, you have these pockets where it speeds up a little bit, up to about 50 miles an hour, but then kind of grinds back down to 20, maybe 30 miles an hour. And this is, you know, a particularly dangerous time of the evening because you might be lulled into thinking, oh, the traffic's getting back up to full speed, and then it just kind of starts to slow down again. We've seen a lot of crashes in my many years of traffic reporting that have happened that way. So, you know, and then you get someone like this who's driving so crazy and going, you know, on the right-hand shoulder when they have to get around this. So that just, you know, adds to all of this. Let's see what they do right here, getting kind of boxed in. So coming up on Arlington, and, you know, we'll be getting to that kind of that weird intersection there with the 110 where the leftbound, the northbound lanes towards downtown are in the left-hand lanes. There's he's about to go by another LAPD unit right here. And then to the right takes us to the southbound Harbor Freeway down towards the ports of LA. And then, you know, continuing from there, we just go towards the East LA interchange where, you know, things get very messy as well. So still plenty of traffic in the immediate future of this suspect. And we will see how far they want to take this. And another thing I noticed, though, you know, they had authorized spikes and were probably wondering about a pit maneuver or something. Definitely not likely on the freeway. And the other thing I noticed is that the lead officer, the lead cruiser in this pursuit, does not have one of those push bars on the front of their vehicle. So not likely to see a pit happen, at least not by the officer that is in the lead of this pursuit at the moment.
Yeah, that suspect now getting off on this exit. Is this Arlington? What exit is this, Desmond?
Getting off now at Western. So the next exit
okay.
there at Western. North would take us towards Koreatown, and southbound towards South LA.
And Mike, you know, these when they just continue to go and go, it seems like the suspect gets you know, more desperate, and it seems like we've been seeing them build here lately, and sadly ending in crashes or just like the semi truck that caught fire. But this last one, where you know that crash. You know, thankfully, no one was hurt and no one was hit by the suspect. But you got to wonder, hey, stop before something like this happens.
Well, yeah, and you look at him right now kind of aimlessly crossing over the double yellow there into the wrong side of the road. And again, not really for a reason. There's not traffic immediately in front of him. So kind of needlessly putting people in danger now. Really weird now he's going around traffic. But, you know, when he was getting off the freeway, Desmond got kind of a tight shot of the driver's side there. And it looked like perhaps that he may have been on the phone for a second. I saw something in his hand. LAPD is technically in tracking mode right now, which is why we don't see that lead patrol car right behind the suspect. A watch commander had asked them to go into tracking mode, which with LAPD, they remain with their lights and sirens on, but they keep distance. And the protocol here, which now we may be back in full-blown pursuit mode, but protocol for tracking mode of LAPD is to remain out of sight of the suspect. Almost looked like they wanted to try a pit there, Des.
Yeah, kind of, and it looked like that might have spooked the suspect a little bit there, but I'm not sure that we would see that without the push bar in front. Maybe in a pretty desperate situation, they might do that, but and we don't believe we've heard pit authorized yet at this point. We do have quite a bit of traffic, so you know, they may have been setting up for that, but unclear if that's allowed yet at this point. So now we're back northbound here on Western Avenue, headed back towards the 10.
And Mike, it seems like to me it's been going back and forth a little, like a tracking mode, then we're in full-on pursuit mode, then it seems like they fall back a little bit, we're back in tracking mode, and then now, like here now, it seems like we're back on full-on pursuit because LAPD is right on this guy's tail.
Yeah, as we get back on the 10 freeway here, and yeah, tracking mode is designed to kind of relieve some pressure, let the suspect cool down, not think he's immediately being chased. But, you know, the issue is when you're in traffic like this, those patrol cars can only get so far behind the suspects. Right, I mean, they can't, if you're in like heavy rush hour traffic, it's hard to keep that distance. So tracking mode doesn't always work. And then even if you go into tracking mode and you do keep that distance, sometimes it means nothing to the suspect at all. And the watch commander will make the decision, look, tracking mode's clearly not working. Let's get back into pursuit, because if you're in full-blown pursuit mode, at least you can warn other drivers, right? If you are right behind the suspect, lights and sirens on, at least you can warn people to kind of get out of the way, which we are seeing is being somewhat effective here. So it does look like we are kind of back into pursuit mode here. Des, are we still eastbound on the 10, it looks like?
Yeah, we are still east on the 10. Again, these are the collector lanes right here. I believe he'll still have the option for either the 10 or the 110 on this one as we pass by Vermont. And, you know, squeezing between cars there, basically splitting lanes, almost like a motorcycle at a couple of junctures here. There you see the markers there on the roadway. So I believe this is going to commit him to the 10 unless he cuts all the way to the left for the northbound 110. And but yeah, LAPD, they seem pretty determined to be involved in this one. It was the first time we saw off the freeway there on Western very briefly. It seemed like the suspect did not really like the way that was going there when they were on Western and decided to get back on the 10. So in the traffic here, and we're just about at the junction of the 10-110 in downtown.
And what was concerning to me at one point, it seemed like the suspect was trying to dodge cars, but then at another point, it seemed like they were just weaving in and out of traffic for nothing.
Well, and I caught that too, and I couldn't tell, you know, like I said, now he's flashing his headlights, it looks like, hopefully maybe trying to warn some people. You know, it looked like at one point he was on his phone, so I don't know if he had, you know, was distracted by his phone and that's what was causing him to weave. But I do want to show you video, Chauncey, of when we think the suspect threw something out of the car. Remember, we had talked about that bus. There's that bus, and you'll see, looks like we slowed it down. There you go. See that white thing come out of the driver's side. Yeah, so definitely something came out the window. That's what caught the attention of the airship. You know, we have no idea, haven't heard if anybody's been able to locate that. But very observant there by that police helicopter, because, you know, I certainly didn't see it, and it came out of the driver's side right there, almost looked like maybe a bag or a shirt or something like that.
Yeah, and it seems like the suspect was kind of, I wouldn't say it's smart, but knew to do it going past that bus as well, which probably was through
Yeah, maybe trying to hide him
it,
and probably hoping that the officers are going to keep with them and not stop to pick up whatever they threw.
Right.
So, you know, the LAPD officers, hopefully somebody was able to go back and pick that up off of the freeway. And, you know, now we're going to come into downtown where pursuits go to die. So we'll see if that's what the game plan here is.
And we were talking about the past few chases that we've been following and calling, and the one that ended downtown that went into that garage. And like you said, you know, that's what happens.
Yeah, and you know, in this situation, we have seen the ground units be. Oh, now it sounds like you may be going to the 110 North here, but you know, ground units have been pretty on this guy's tail. When we get into downtown and they're in tracking mode, that's when things really get sticky because there's nobody behind them. But a lot of times these guys get into downtown and they drive just completely recklessly or the wrong way. There are so many one-way streets in downtown. If these people go wrong way on a one-way street, the officers will never chase them going the wrong way. And so that's kind of what happens. Airships can't see them because the buildings are so tall, or they go into parking garages, as you mentioned. So, you know, hopefully this guy doesn't do that. You know, you still have those ground units right behind him, but we are coming into the downtown area now.
Got you, and we're seeing that traffic build up. Once again, people, we are following this stolen car pursuit right here that started out of West LA, this blue Mercedes SUV that's been here on the 10, weaving in and out of traffic, going off the freeway at one point. Also, the police helicopters, the airship, noticing the suspect throw something out of the car at one point. We want to go back up to SkyCal's Desmond Shaw. And Desmond, as we go here through this downtown area and traffic is building up, what do you expect here?
Well, I mean, I get some criticism for saying it before. We all know what happens in downtown Los Angeles. You know, Mike mentioned it. And so when I see a suspect take the northbound 110, you know, obviously, you know, what is on my mind is what they're going to attempt to do to evade LAPD. Now, they did just miss the collector lanes for the downtown exits to take the northbound 110. And I'll tell you, too, you know, LAPD's helicopter knows what's going on. I'm hearing them talking right now saying, can we re-engage? We've got to stay engaged here in downtown Los Angeles. I'm not going to be able to follow this vehicle if we get by the tall building. So now you actually see, and it sounds like the watch commander agreed with that assessment. And so now the units on the ground are right behind the suspect to try to prevent that from happening. It's just become such a common tactic. So again, you know, if the Santa Monica Freeway is not the last to clear up, it's definitely the 110 through downtown LA, those northbound lanes, as you come up to the 4 level with the 101. And so we are still in some very heavy evening rush hour traffic here. There will still be some chances here to bail from the freeway as one of those aforementioned tall buildings gets into the shot right here. Yeah. But LAPD so far sticking with this one, really, really sticky on the ground.
And Desmond, this is the closest, one of the points of closest that I've seen LAPD, the ground units behind this suspect.
Yeah, I mean they're practically right up on their bumper whenever they have the opportunity for that, because again I think they have to know at this point what suspects are probably trying to do when they take a pursuit towards downtown Los Angeles. You know, a couple of years ago it was not that common of a thing, and it just seems like there's a lot of folks out there where it may not be their first rodeo running from the police, and they have a plan to run. And so if LAPD is trying to take a more aggressive tack to try to prevent them from doing that, it would definitely make sense. So we will be leaving downtown now, headed up towards the 101 and Dodger Stadium, and then towards Highland Park if we stick with the 110 onto the Arroyo Seco Parkway, LA's first freeway. And we'll see. So far, looks like the suspect is going to avoid the 101 there on the right and stick here with the northbound 110. We'll also have the option for the 5 freeway as well.
Mike Rogers, we want to go back over to you. We were how Desmond was talking about, what normally happens when we get close to downtown. But we had a pursuit here recently where a suspect did make it into a garage, but police were right there on his tracks, and I think that suspect was apprehended. Yeah,
so that actually was in Sherman Oaks, but same kind of concept. Yes. It's where they go into the mall. There was a mall parking lot, and that was an undercover unit who was kind of doing ring around the rosy with the guy in the parking garage. And ultimately, yeah, they did take him into custody, which really kind of speaks to the point. If you're right there on his tail, it's going to be a lot harder for them to get away. Now, downtown, though, it's just a little bit more difficult because, like I mentioned, all those one-way streets. But you know what I am listening to right now, Chauncey, is trying to coordinate with CHP to have CHP come take this over. It sounds like LAPD thinks he has been on the freeway long enough that they want CHP to begin getting in place for this.
All right, Mike, thank you. Once again, we are following this stolen pursuit, this SUV right there. This suspect, we're told, 2 people inside of this car, in and out of traffic. Desmond, we talked about how the police helicopter, they were able to spot the suspect throwing something, and we didn't see that, but we went back and rolled the video, but something white being thrown from the car as they were passing the bus going up the 10.
Yeah, sorry, I was just remarking that that person seemed to be refusing to get out of the way there for LAPD, and now the suspect kind of has a little bit of a lead there. But yeah, unfortunately, we never heard any more information on the radio about what, if anything, was recovered there. You know, the flight officer mentioned that and told the unit, you know, to investigate it, but then they've got to continue to stick with this pursuit. So, you know, they kind of have to keep their attention divided on that. I hadn't heard anything else about what that may have been. This is going, another complication, even though we're leaving downtown, is we're going to be coming up through the tunnels here on the 110. And so this is going to complicate things for us as well. We'll try to keep this shot here. So the tunnels here that will go through the 5 interchange and that frankly horribly constructed ramp that is on the left side of the freeway, which causes so much angst to LA drivers. So we're coming up on this point. There's the first tunnel, and we'll be going into the second tunnel here right by Dodger Stadium here momentarily. And
we'll see if the suspect goes under the second tunnel. It seems like that we may be back in tracking mode now, Mike. I don't see LAPD. I know you said at one point that CHP is trying to take over possibly. Any news on that?
Yeah, and you know, I'm also listening to the watch commander now. Now we are so far away from the division where this started in. You know, this started in West LA, and we're now, you know, coming up near Elysian Park, Dodger Stadium. So the other issue is now the watch commander is saying, okay, I only want 3 units involved in this. Everybody else needs to return to the division because, you know, now you're running into a situation where you could be leaving the division kind of not as covered as you want it. So they're having to make those choices about where they want, as we hear them going northbound on the 5 freeway now. After coming out of those tunnels. So we'll see, hopefully there's those units, those black and whites staying right behind them.
All right, there we go. We're back on it. And, you know, I've been, you know, here for a few months, and so I have friends and family, and they're all just kind of enthralled into these chases and, you know, how it's going to end, how it started. But I always get, you know, what's going through this person's mind? What are they thinking? What's the end goal here? And each suspect, it's different. You never know. You never know what, you know, like especially here in the beginning, we don't know the circumstances surrounding where and why this suspect stole the SUV. But it always begs the question as to what are you trying to do here? What's your end goal? And Des, and you've covered enough of these to know that it could be all over the place depending on the suspect.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these people definitely have rap sheets, or they have, you know, outstanding warrants. Some of them, you know, it's really hard to say. I mean, you know, that pursuit we saw earlier with that stolen vehicle, those were practically kids in the car, it looked like, and the same with the one yesterday. I mean, we have just seen, it certainly seems like over the last couple of years, more and more people that are just willing to run from the police for whatever reason. And I mean, to be honest with you, I think part of the calculation with at least some of these suspects is they think there is now a, you know, better chance of them getting away than they used to. I mean, I remember growing up watching pursuits on TV. It was a foregone conclusion. They are going to get caught. They are going to go to jail. And that perception has definitely changed. And so that is definitely, you know, part of this as well, as there's been, you know, a lot more scrutiny on a lot of law enforcement. A lot of pursuit tactics have been changed. A lot of things have been dialed back. And I mean, any one of these could be factors, or this could just be a desperate person in a desperate situation with a mental breakdown. I mean, there is a multitude of factors that could be playing, you know, into factor here. But, you know, the fact that this vehicle has Texas plates is definitely interesting. Makes you wonder if this is someone who's even familiar with where they're at, if they're just visiting, or if this was taken from Texas by someone who lives in LA. I mean, that's another factor with all of this as well. So unclear at this point if there is any calculus going on or if they're just kind of dragging this out at this point. But regardless, it does continue now on the Golden State Freeway, northbound headed towards Burbank.
All right, and we don't see any ground units close by. Mike, any update as to where this is headed now? Are we still going, are we going back to sort of tracking mode, or are we waiting on CHP to join in?
Yeah, they are back in tracking mode. The watch commander did ask them to do that once they got through the tunnels. You know, so they've kind of been doing this tracking mode based on what the airship can and cannot see. So, which, you know, is a fair middle ground, if you will. There is a lot of times where the watch commander says, I don't care if you can't see him, we're not going back into a chase. And then that's how you end up losing these suspects. But this watch commander is definitely taking the advice of the airship, which says, hey, I'm not gonna have eyes on him in downtown, the buildings are too tall, can we re-engage? And the watch commander says, if that's your recommendation, let's do it. Same thing when you go through the tunnels. Hey, I'm not gonna be able to see him through the tunnels, can we, you know, go back into full-blown pursuit? And the watch commander says yes. So, but as we get out of those situations, then we go back into tracking mode as we come through the northbound 5 freeway, you know, coming through like the Los Feliz area.
And you brought up a good point I didn't think about earlier, Mike, when you were talking about the watch commander who said, hey, we just want 3 units to stay right here because we're getting so, you know, so far away from where this started over in the Western Division, and you don't want to leave that area unmanned.
Right, and that's, you know, when we get into situations like this, that's probably why they want CHP to come in and take this over. Right. You know, CHP is a statewide agency. They could chase them to, you know, the moon and back if they wanted to. So CHP just has better geographical resources to kind of chase this person. Now, I will say, we still haven't gotten very far out of the city of LA, although technically now we're going to be coming up into the Glendale Burbank area, which isn't theirs, but we're certainly not in an area where we're so far away from LAPD's jurisdiction. You know, we are still near that, but they probably are trying to get CHP to take over simply so that they can, you know, send their units back to the division to be able to cover the division.
Yeah, and Mike, what does that look like? I know everyone's communicating with each other, but it's still a very chaotic situation. We're trying to make sure we stay in tracking mode, we don't lose this guy. But so how does that changeover happen?
So the beauty of the airship, the LAPD airship, LA County Sheriff, really any of the local law enforcement airships, they have multiple radios in their helicopter. So while the tactical flight officer is talking to units on West LA's frequency, on a separate radio, they're talking to CHP on the radio. And so that airship, because otherwise you would have to have dispatchers communicate with other dispatchers, communicate with the field. This way it's more cohesive, and the airship
knows.
Yeah, the airship can talk to CHP dispatch, but those CHP units can also hear what the airship is saying, and you know, it just makes the transfer a little bit easier. And then once CHP gets in place, sorry, I'm just listening to that. Once they get CHP units in place, CHP will tell LAPD, all right, we're ready, and the airship will tell all of the LAPD units, back out, CHP is gonna take this. So what I'm listening to now though, Chauncey, we still have the right car, but because they're in tracking mode, there is no night sun on it, and the airship for a second kind of lost him a little bit there because he is kind of starting to blend in. We're going freeway speeds, we're not swerving all over the place.
And there was another SUV that looked like the suspect's SUV, so that's probably what they were talking about, because I was like, I don't know if that's the one. So that's what, you know, they were probably making sure they had the right suspect, this Mercedes SUV that was stolen out of West LA. We are still on this stolen car pursuit. Susie Sudd joining me here now at 7:35. We have been on this for about 30 minutes now, and this guy not giving up. We're told by officials 2 people in this car at one point. The driver throwing something white out of the car that police were able to notice. Mike, we were talking about that CHP exchange, and now just in full tracking mode. And it seems like that this just may go on and on and on until you know, something happens, or you know, they go back to the pursuit mode.
Yeah, and as we're kind of climbing back up a little, now we're kind of going back and forth, but you know, he was gaining some speed there for a little bit. And yeah, I mean, you know, at this situation, they're probably very content to just let this guy go until he starts to run out of fuel or run out of stamina, or the car gives out, or whatever, what have you. But you know, at over 100 miles an hour on the freeway, on a busy freeway, you're definitely not going to see a pit. A spike strip is probably unlikely, but just because of how busy the freeway is and how wide the freeway is. We've seen spike strips on the freeway a handful of times, but they are difficult to do just because of the way freeways are designed. So I would be surprised if we saw any of those at this point, and you know, still waiting to see if CHP is actually going to take over.
Yeah, but just driving erratically this entire time. We saw them going on the wrong way on surface streets and driving very fast on the freeway. And you can understand why the LAPD might go into tracking mode. They do that often, as we see a unit actually right there on its tail. But they do that often when the person is driving that way, driving fast.
Sorry, real quick, Susie, that is CHP.
That's
the
CHP now.
unit.
Okay.
So it sounds like we are starting to do the handoff where we are. This video is actually from earlier, but we are starting to see CHP get involved in this. I don't know if we can go back to the live chopper video, guys, but CHP is now starting to take over this, probably from their Altadena office.
I want to talk to you, Mike, about just the stopping methods. You know, for cars, it's different in terms of what kind of sizes it is, what kind of car it is, as we slow down just a little bit here. But the pit maneuver is a very difficult thing to do on an SUV.
Yeah, you know, they're a little bit more high profile, right? And it looks like we're blacked out now, too. That's obviously really not good, especially when you've got you know, no airship above it. No night sun from the airship above it. But you know, blacked out is super not ideal on a freeway like this going over 100 miles an hour. But you're right, Susie. A pit maneuver can be more difficult because the center of gravity on SUVs is different than a car, and so it is more susceptible to rolling. And that is why, you know, here in Southern California, our local law enforcement agencies mostly don't do those at any speeds higher than 30 miles an hour, just to keep everything safe like that. And it looks like, Des, we're getting off here.
Looks like we are exiting here into downtown Burbank as we are off the freeway at Empire Street, or very close to downtown Burbank here. So you saw the first opportunity that the suspect had to get up above 100 miles an hour. They took it at 110, but CHP sticking right with them here. Might be a good opportunity for a pit maneuver. I believe all CHP officers are pit certified if they get the permission from their sergeant to execute that. Going to be pretty difficult, though, with these speeds and these traffic conditions onto the wrong side of the roadway. But you see, it was pretty fortuitous timing by CHP to come and get involved in this, as they were just about to, the LAPD airship, it sounded like they were really struggling, as you said, Mike, with keeping up with this pursuit. But then they had that CHP cruiser that was right along the right-hand shoulder. The LAPD helicopter is still overhead. I still hear them talking as well. I'm curious if CHP's helicopter will now come in from Fullerton on this one, but we've got lights out and some dangerous driving. Wrong side of the road here. You know, dinner time here, downtown Burbank, lots of shopping, lots of restaurants. So definitely the danger has been amplified.
Yeah, certainly in sort of an industrial area of Burbank, as we take a live look right now. This is a stolen car pursuit by the CHP now on surface streets just off the 5 freeway near the Empire Center, if you're familiar with that area. It's a big shopping center just parallel to the freeway, and it looks like they're going down 3rd Street now. And we just want to reset for our viewers, if you're just joining us here on KCAL News, this is breaking news. We've been following this pursuit for about 30 minutes now. We picked it up in the Santa Monica area, and it went down PCH multiple directions and then came back up and onto the 10 freeway east, went through Culver City, went through downtown LA, and here we are in the city of Burbank after going up the 110 to the 5 freeway. Looks like they have all the green lights here, and as far as we're concerned, the CHP is right on their tail, Mike.
Yeah, and you know, listening to it on the CHP frequency, as Desmond was curious if they're going to launch their helicopter, they are. H-50 is coming up from Fullerton to relieve the LAPD helicopter, and you know, just some housekeeping things here. Des, they are on the Brown, CHP's Brown frequency right now where they're calling this. So CHP is going to take this forever. We are surface streets, as Des mentioned, in downtown Burbank. Still looks like blacked out, though, which is just so dangerous to do that. You know, I mean, especially when we're now talking pedestrians and other things like that. At least the road is lit pretty well. And these CHP units, who don't generally do tracking mode, by the way. CHP is generally all in it. Tracking mode is very, very infrequent for CHP. So the good news is you'll have those units right behind them, and hopefully those lights and sirens will alert, you know, anybody. And it looks like we're back on the freeway, Des?
Back on the 5 freeway.
Yep, back underneath us and right underneath us here. So fortunately getting out of downtown Burbank, because that was pretty dangerous right there. With, you know, I thought we were going to go down on San Fernando Road where there's a lot of people out there walking around. Of course, it is dinner time right now. So back on the freeway now, at least out of the danger for pedestrians, but as we're back up to over 90 miles an hour with no lights on here, very, very dangerous. This big SUV just flying along here, and, you know, it's dark. it's a dark color and it's blacked out, and at nighttime. We know our LA freeways not so very well lit these days. 115 miles an hour now, just slamming on that gas pedal. All of a sudden, you saw somebody right there who was trying to make a turn out of the right-hand lane, and just how dangerous that could get. CHP trying to catch up here on the other side of the freeway. So, you know, we've seen all kinds of maneuvers here earlier on the 10, zigging and zagging on the right-hand shoulder to evade traffic, and then briefly on and off the freeways. Now we're back onto a full-speed freeway, and the suspect taking advantage of that, just going pedal to the metal here at times over 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, and Mike, at one point you said you saw the suspect might have been talking on the phone. We know the driver's been weaving in and out of traffic, trying to miss cars and driving erratically, but also at points where there were no cars around. It seemed like that they were just kind of zigzagging for play, if you will.
Yeah, and you know, we've seen situations in the past, and look, you see him flashing his headlights at the cars that are in front of him, hopefully trying to tell him to get out of the way. But we've seen situations where suspects will communicate with other people in hopes of trying to, you know, we've seen everything from setting up a second car that they can get into, or, you know, hey, I'm coming to your house, like, you know, keep the door unlocked, something like that. So who knows what this person's actually doing on the phone there? And whatever it was, if they were trying to come up with a plan, it doesn't seem like it really is working, because they're just kind of aimlessly now driving on the freeways. You know, he's gotten off the freeway twice now, once back off the 10 and then once here off the 5. Neither one of those ever seem to really work out for them. Seems like they know that, and then they get back on the freeway.
Yeah, it's true. You know, Mike's referring to the times that we often see during pursuits when people go to an area that's familiar to them, maybe back home, maybe to an area where there's a friend that can help them out. But we see that often. But tonight, as Mike was saying, we don't really see a pattern happening right now. We're clear, far away from where we started this, from the 10 East Freeway, or the Santa Monica area along the PCH. And, you know, just such a big difference from earlier when they were on the 10 freeway, just blocked in by cars trying to zigzag and maneuver around the traffic. And look at this. They are so free right now to go 106 miles, as we're talking about clocking right now. And Desmond, does it look like any of the units are following closely behind, or are they gone now?
No, Susie. In fact, I just heard the one of the ones who was pursuing him just said lost visual on that. Oh, just widen out. They may have reacquired it here. They got stuck behind, you know, a couple other vehicles. Obviously, you know, this suspect has no rules that they feel like playing by, where, you know, CHP has to be very, very careful passing other vehicles. And even though the freeway is full speed, there's still a lot of folks that are out here trying to get home. And we're going to be coming up to the 170 pretty soon, where we may see some more traffic getting through that bottleneck area between there and the 118. Even at 8 o'clock, you could definitely see a little bit of traffic. There's the spotlight overhead. That is the first one that we've seen, and that is from Police 3. So we did hear CHP's helicopter is inbound. Last check, they were north of Dodger Stadium. So we'll see how the suspect reacts now that they have a big shiny light on top of them.
And another thing we're dealing with, this SUV stolen has Texas license plates. We don't know the circumstances surrounding the theft of it. We don't know if this is a person from Texas who now lives here. We don't know if the suspect knows the roads, or Mike, you also mentioned this, if this is a nationwide search right now, which started over in the Santa Monica area, and then we picked it up in West LA. Yeah,
there's just a ton of unknowns here. You know, generally, and it all depends on the circumstances of the crime, but you know, if it's a stolen vehicle, it could be put into a nationwide database for somebody to stop. The way they're chasing it, I'm kind of leaning more towards it was stolen here. And you know, just somebody that had Texas plates and lived here with, you know, Texas plates. So sorry about that. We're just kind of coordinating fuel here. Desmond is getting a little bit low on fuel, so we're going to chase this for as long as we can. But you know, even if Desmond had a ton of fuel, the way we're going to go to where, you know, the other place where pursuits go to die, which is the Grapevine.
It's true. You know, just a little past Castaic is where we lose these pursuits, and sometimes I think they deliberately do that just because they know that. And as we cross through the Grapevine and get up into those mountainous areas, it's very difficult to keep up with them, obviously. And but again, Mike, you know, you were talking about the different divisions of the CHP. They have a different one up there, and they will start chasing from that division.
Oh yeah, I mean, right now we're in the brown frequency, the Altadena frequency. Then we're going to go into the tan frequency, which is Santa Clarita, Lancaster, Palmdale. Then you go up there and you have Fort Tejon. Then you go to the other side and you have Bakersfield. And then there is no shortage of CHP offices and officers to chase this as long as they can. And you know, once when they get up into the Grapevine, it's not good for us, but it does kind of give CHP a little bit more of an advantage because there are a little bit, you know, the road narrows a little bit more. There are a little bit more opportunities for some spikes. There are some other areas where officers can kind of camp out a little bit to be able to toss one out. So we have seen several of these that go into the Grapevine and actually end in the Grapevine because those officers up there are able to get ahead of it. The road is a little bit more narrow and they're able to do a little bit more with it.
Yeah, you can imagine trying to throw a spike strip out into the, you know, many freeway or many lanes of the freeway. You know, that's certainly impossible to do and very dangerous for officers. When they throw a spike strip out, they first has to establish an area where they believe that the suspect is going to travel to. They have to first think, okay, we can get ahead of them somehow. If there's some sort of pattern, we can get ahead of them. And then that officer has to almost hide, throw that thing out ahead of them, ahead of the suspect, then pull it back in, and hopefully one of those will puncture the tire and you know, incapacitate the car. But certainly it's hard to do, especially at these kind of speeds. And as Mike was talking about, perhaps along the Grapevine where it does narrow and there aren't so many lanes to throw those strips across.
And then, like you mentioned earlier, it's an SUV, so not as easy as a normal car when talking about these maneuvers and the spike strips. And then, Mike, we talked about this a few weeks ago with the spike strips and then the car turning around and then having to face the officers. They also have that in mind. They don't want that either. And it seems like this driver, we've seen him go over 100 miles per hour, the suspect. We do know there are 2 people in the car. How this will end, especially as we head towards the Grapevine, we don't know, but we are following it as long as we can. Mike, how are we on fuel? We good?
Yeah, you know, it all depends on the airport. We're kind of near Burbank and Van Nuys, so we're trying to stretch out. Now we're getting off the freeway here in the, what is this?
Pacoima.
The Pacoima Brand exit, Des? Where is this?
Yep, yeah, Brand on the border of San Fernando right here. Now, guys, this actually just happened. Must have been right under the freeway. I just heard them say good spike. They had a spike strip set up, and the officer said that it was successful. So not sure how many tires were hit, but now, you know, we'll see if this car was equipped with run flats. It's not uncommon on a Mercedes, although this is a little bit older one, so perhaps not. Those are very, very expensive tires. So we will learn shortly, but they said good spike. So now we're headed up Laurel Canyon on the border of Pacoima and San Fernando, and we will see if the vehicle does indeed begin to have some issues there with a flat tire.
And while we wait on that, Desmond, where are officials telling you this happened? And it must have happened very quick. I missed that. Now we see the car stopping here.
It must have happened right when we went underneath the 118, I think. I just heard them shout spike, spike, and then they said good spike. So, which, you know, means that it hit. So now on to Rinaldi Street here and Acala. We're going to be getting into a neighborhood, into a parking lot right here. Maybe a good opportunity for a pit if there's some wide open asphalt. Let's see here. First time we've been into a parking lot. Trying to get some space here. It might be thinking maybe they might be trying to go for to get out and run, go for a foot bail right here. But no, they are continuing. We'll see what we have. I'm not seeing any flat tires yet at this point. It might be on the passenger side, but back out onto the avenue right here onto Rincon Avenue. So just seeing if the tire's going to deflate, or maybe we'll have an opportunity for a pit as we get away from some of the traffic here.
Yeah, you know, I think a lot of people think that, you know, when they get hit with the spike strip, that air just comes right out, right? It's like a straw, if you can imagine, air coming out of a straw. And it takes a little while. And that's why we've seen people drive on tires that have been affected by spike strips for so long, for miles and miles and miles they can go. You know, unclear what's going to happen with this car, but certainly good news right now that it did actually, in fact, work, as we were talking about earlier. Very difficult to even set up a spike strip. They have to get ahead of the suspect and know where they're going to go. Maybe they knew somehow that this person was going to exit off that freeway. And as Chauncey and Desmond were talking about how quickly that happened, we almost missed that. But Desmond heard over the radio that the spike strip was, in fact, successful.
All right, Desmond.
Yep, that's right. As we are on, I'm sorry, Chauncey, just reiterating, we're almost into San Fernando right now, the second smallest city in LA County. sandwiched between Pacoima and Sylmar. And we'll see here now, just kind of circling around this area, almost in the downtown San Fernando area here, a little bit of an industrial area. Now on to Meyer Street. This will be dead ending, I believe, at Truman and back out. Pretty busy intersection. There's also Metrolink tracks right here as well. The suspect just, I mean, really crazy driving, but CHP really determined to stick with this one here, just squeezing between those two cars. And now we are in the city of San Fernando.
You can really see how desperate they were to going into that parking lot of that Rite Aid. We really held our breath during that time because of the fact that there are people around. Mike at the desk with this update.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was just going to comment. I think Desmond mentioned it earlier, but you have these newer cars with these newer tires, and if they've got run flats on them, the spikes are going to do nothing. You know, and that will quickly take that equation off of the table here, and that will no longer be a tool. And you spike them, and the tires, you know, run flat tires, they will let a certain amount of air out before it holds, but you know, certainly probably not enough to bring them to a stop. I mean, how many times have we seen them completely spike all four tires, and these people still drive on the rims for, you know, 10, 20 minutes here? So this person doesn't seem to have any issues with what they're doing here, and you know, as Des mentioned, CHP right behind him. And then looks like, I think Des too, the CHP helicopter is just getting into place now too. So we've got a fresh law enforcement. Oh, wrong side of the road, almost hitting that car there.
And Mike,
Wow.
you said they like CHP.
At
I'm sorry, Desmond, go ahead.
No, I was just saying there's just the cars diving out of the way there to evade this. So they did get a little bit of space there from CHP, but they are still right there. And yeah, fresh set of eyes and a fresh tank of gas for CHP's helicopter, which is now getting to the scene. Into and out of another parking lot. Very common to see some of these suspects try to get out if they just have a couple of seconds to try to get out and run into a crowded area like a shopping center or something like that. Makes me think that that's what the suspect may be thinking at this point.
Desmond, I was just about to say that, because there was a second time that we've seen the suspects drive into, you know, go into a big parking lot like that. Like you said, it was very concerning during. As he's stopping there, it's very concerning when he went into the CVS, that parking lot there. But it seemed like they are trying to find the perfect spot in their mind to park it and get out and run for it.
Yeah, maybe, but now we're, you know, in a residential area here. There might even be some dead ends if they don't know where they're going, and it certainly seems to be pretty aimless. So they could definitely find themselves trapped here. If they continue just kind of going left and right into these neighborhoods like this. This is now into the residential area. And you can see just how small the city of San Fernando is, because we're actually technically in Sylmar already. We were only in San Fernando for about 30 or 45 seconds on Aztec Street right here. Small residential area. There you see CHP's helicopter going through our shot. Right there. Lights on, lights off. The hazard lights have been on. They've been off. It seems like at one point they were brake checking CHP as well. So definitely a weird one here, and it seems like, well, I just can't tell if we haven't seen any flat tires yet on this one, but the speeds have slowed down considerably since CHP said that their spike strip was successful. So it may have been successful on the passenger side, and that's why we haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, it just makes you wonder, are they slowing down because of that, or because this is a residential area? It doesn't seem like they had any regard for speed earlier, but certainly slowing down. And we are relieved about that, because obviously these are very narrow streets with two cars or cars parked on either side of the road, and obviously not a lot of space for the officers down below to attempt any kind of pit maneuver of any sort, just because of the fact that it is a very narrow road and there could be people outside walking right now. That's why we get so nervous when we see this, especially at nighttime. You know, with these suspects, we have no idea where they're going right now. Again, just going round and around, as Desmond was talking about, aimlessly driving on these neighborhood streets. You know, it's pretty incredible that, you know, thank goodness, but they haven't hit anyone or anything, because they got really close at many points throughout this chase where they're driving on the wrong side of the road and really could have caused a lot of harm, but thank goodness they did not. But right now, we're just waiting for the spike strip to have some sort of effect that we can actually visually see. We haven't been able to see anything yet, aside from the fact that they've been slowing down significantly.
And that's if that, you know, this truck does not have the run flats that you were talking about, Mike. And we know if it wouldn't have worked if the SUV has the run flats. And you're talking about the danger. We're talking about here 50 minutes. This suspect has gone all over the place, even driving through rush hour traffic through downtown. Then we also downtown Burbank, but certainly some dangerous moments, and some very populated areas with a lot of folks, a lot of people, and even here as they go through the neighborhoods, it's almost 8 o'clock at night, and then people may be coming home. People may be, walking their neighborhood, coming from a neighbor's home. You never know, which is what makes these instances so dangerous.
And it really seems like he is, like you guys mentioned, trying to find a spot to ditch this, but CHP is just not giving them an opportunity. The headlights are back on right now, but when we were in those kind of darker side streets, it almost looked like they were turning them on to get a quick look and then turn them back off. It almost seemed like kind of they needed to see where they were going for a second before they ditched the lights and turned them back off. But look, this is kind of what Des is talking about. They're going down streets. They don't know where they're at. This is a very, very, very narrow street here.
They're coming to a stop, right?
Yeah.
Just for a second.
Yeah.
So it seems like they were, because we see them stop and then go, they very well could be looking for the perfect time and the perfect place to park this car and get out and run.
And they don't have that opportunity yet. CHP is not giving them that chance at this point.
Mike, have you heard anything about the LAPD still sticking around? Because I know the CHP likes it as one package, one helicopter. I mean, their chopper, their ground units, one packaged. But have you heard anything about the LAPD still being around this?
So the LAPD, here we go.
Flip stop here.
And they're running
out, and we are out at the Metrolink station. Maybe they're going to try to catch a train here. They're running across the Metrolink train. Over the train tracks now onto San Fernando Road, right out here, pretty busy street. Here, I believe, is the driver. We saw two people there get out of the vehicle. This guy's holding something, looks like a jacket or something, dropping some stuff as well under a canopy of trees. And you'll notice there are no ground units behind this, because within the last couple of minutes, it sounds like they may have actually canceled the ground units and just had the helicopter overhead. And so this suspect taking that opportunity now to get away. It looks like a marijuana dispensary right here. They still have the spotlight, and this is the one that CHP's helicopter is focusing on. So we believe that this is the driver. And now inside of this establishment right here. But CHP's helicopter hopefully trying to guide some units in right on the border of San Fernando and LA. I know jurisdictions can get kind of sticky right around this area because we're right on the border of the two cities. Taking off the jacket, that's not going to fool the helicopter overhead.
Well, now they'll never know it's
just
him.
as well as we can.
And Mike and Desmond, I don't know if you all were able to see, but as the suspect was running, something white coming out of the bag, which resembles what that helicopter saw earlier in the chase, something white being thrown out of the...
There we go, under the trees, but there we go.
Oh, there's CHP.
Up. Okay, well... Now he's decided he wants to give up in this empty field right here. So it took the units a couple of minutes, but it looks like he's saying he wants to comply, but he needs to get down. He's going to get bum rushed, and he gets tackled right there because he was not following. Their directions. They would have wanted him to turn around and get on his knees, and now CHP officers have tackled him to the ground. They don't know who this person is. They don't know if they're armed and dangerous or what the story is, but the danger to the public, fortunately, coming to an end here off San Fernando and Truman. I believe they said that the other person in the car was still at the train station. So hopefully they will get them, but they got the person they really wanted, the driver of that crazy pursuit.
If you're just joining us here on KCAL News at 8, we begin tonight of a stolen car that was being chased for about an hour out of Santa Monica with Texas license plates and to this area where they just ditched the car. And we don't know if a spike strip was affecting that car at all earlier, but we did hear that there was a successful spike strip. We saw two people coming out of this car, and the CHP officers focusing on the driver there, as we believe this person on the ground being arrested right now is the driver. And another suspect who came out of the car, the passenger, we do believe they're at a nearby metro station area where they first fled to on foot.
Yeah, and this started as a stolen Mercedes that the suspect was in out of West LA. We watched for an hour the suspects just zip up and down highways, the 10, even going through rush hour traffic through downtown and also through downtown Burbank, Culver City, even through the tunnels there on the 110, complicating things for us as well. But as you see, coming to an end here, at one point after jumping out of the car, we did see the driver losing some things or throwing some things out of a bag, and then the driver goes into a cannabis dispensary, seemed like there, and then takes his jacket off, trying to blend in, and then that's where we ended up right here. He goes under a tree and then takes off, and the officers there tackling him to the ground and now taking him into custody.
And as we see the first arrest being made at the end of this pursuit, I want to throw it over to Mike Rogers at the desk. Fill us in on how this all began and where it went to.
Yeah, Susie, this has been going on for almost an hour now. West LA officers from the LAPD over in the West LA area, which can include Pacific Palisades, near UCLA, those kinds of areas, spotted this stolen car. They ran the plate, came back stolen. They got behind it, and the chase was on. We were in Santa Monica for quite some time on the surface streets in the city of Santa Monica, right near the 3rd Street Promenade, the Santa Monica Pier, before they ended up going up and down PCH and then getting back on to the 10 freeway. And then we headed east to the 10 freeway, got off at some parts on the 10. That didn't appear to work, so they got back on the 10, through downtown, north on the 110, and then transitioned north to the 5, got off in the city of Burbank in yet another very busy area in downtown Burbank, where they got back on the freeway after that didn't work for them either. And this really kind of goes to show the tenacity of law enforcement here. I mean, they did not let this go. LAPD stayed in and out of tracking mode when it was appropriate. You had an airship overhead the entire time, and you had these CHP officers that when they took over, they stayed right on his tail for the majority of this. And you could definitely tell that this guy was trying to go into neighborhoods, get off the freeway, try to figure out ways to lose these cops, and they just weren't going to give it up. Now, what is interesting here, though, is now we're at the train station, and I don't know, and Des, if you've heard, if that passenger was taken into custody, but certainly the person they're most interested in is the driver. That's the ones that they can usually charge with the majority of the crimes. They did take that person into custody, and there you see an LAPD unit right there ready to take their suspects because they started this whole thing.
That's right. Mike, I know there's a lot of difficulty in terms of finding another suspect, especially when they're blending in with other people. And, very often we see them get away because of that fact. Right.
And, the only thing is, and you asked me this earlier, Susie, but we do have CHP and an LAPD helicopter overhead. So, hopefully one was focused on between the two. Yeah, hopefully they split it up and somebody had eyes on that passenger and they can hopefully guide some of those officers into that area.
All right. Well, it looks like one suspect under arrest tonight, and CHP looking for a second as the LAPD stands by to make another arrest. But this has been the end of a stolen car pursuit.
All right, Desmond, Mike, thank you so much.